Hey guys, I'm the host of Free Game Just Listen, a podcast here on Anchor. And let me tell you why I started using Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. I've tried so many different platforms, and I'm back to this one. For one, it's free. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or your phone. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go ahead, go to your app store and download Anchor, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back. This is Free Game Just Listen, and I'm your host, Gaga. So today, I'm going to ask you a question. What is mental health? It's okay if you don't know it. I'm here to tell you and explain a few things. So, let's get going. What is mental health? Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Now, this affects how we think, feel, and act. It also determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of our lives, from childhood, adolescence, through adulthood. Over the course of your life, if you experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, behavior could be affected. Many factors contribute to mental health problems, including, biological factors such as your genes or brain chemistry. Also, your life experiences such as trauma or abuse. All right, now let's go back. Let's just hold right there. Let's talk about trauma or abuse. Okay, many of my followers are Somalian, as am I. So, you're from Somalia, you've been through the war, boom, that's trauma. You've seen a lot of things. But your brain is so unique that you probably didn't remember any of that stuff until I brought it up right now. Your brain is so unique that there's a place that all that stuff is stored in. So you don't Hey guys, welcome back to another segment on mental health. And this special one is actually mental health in the Somali community. So again, my name is Gaga. I'm your host. This is Free Game, just listen. So the topics that I'll be discussing on Somali mental health in the Somali community are challenges and acculturation, impact of war trauma, and what indicates trauma, also social isolation, and change in social status, right? These are things that cause mental health issues, guys. So let's just dive right in. Okay, guys, so as you know, Minnesota has a large Somali community. So over the past years, there's been a vast influx of Somali refugees and immigrants making their new homes in Minnesota, with the overwhelming majority residing in the Twin Cities, in the areas of Minneapolis and St. Paul to be exact. So it is difficult to pinpoint, exactly the number due to the limitation in census data collection to tell you exactly what the mental health percentage is. So since Minnesota has welcomed African immigrants, family members who live in other states within the U.S. and Canada continue to join many newly arrived families that they've left back home, which is a plus. So the prospect of Somali immigrants and refugees returning to their homelands is highly unlikely because of the continuing war, civic strife, and economic crisis make the outlook for return to Somalia very bleak, meaning small. So therefore, it is important that Minnesota continues to embrace and welcome Somalis into the community and assist in their new home here, because I couldn't say that word again. So let's get into the challenges. The challenges are health and culture clashes. I'll just say that. So the challenges facing Somali immigrants and refugees in the Twin Cities are complex, and their needs are great. So besides the mental health stuff, there's already other stuff going on, right? So besides facing enormous cultural and language differences, African immigrants and refugees contend with racism, often have limited literacy skills, and hold jobs where they barely can earn minimum wage and have difficulty providing for their families. Now, if that doesn't put a strain on your mental health, I don't know what will. So also, clinical studies show that rates of post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, among immigrant and refugee populations percent from 39% to 100%, and don't quote me, it's something that I just learned, compared with 1% in the general population, which is high. So while rates of depression range between 47 to 72%, again, don't quote me, this is something that I just learned, the impact of war trauma, social isolation, and change in social status make this culture clash very difficult. These have a significant impact on the psychosocial adjustment. In order to best respond to the needs of my people, it is important to understand their unique experiences and circumstances. And then, as well, the impact of the war trauma, that's one thing, right? So, the overwhelming burden of mental illness that racial and ethnic minorities face compared to their white counterparts, right? Immigrants and refugees have often encountered additional stressful events that contribute to mental health and adjustment problems. Immigrants and refugees experience multiple losses, including loss of homeland, loss of loved ones. Immigrants, most certainly, refugees have likely endured one or more of the following traumatic events prior to resettlement: malnutrition or famine, violence, political persecution, and torture. Often trauma goes untreated, until long after resettlement. Past trauma and current adjustment challenges increase the risk of developing behavioral and mental health problems. So trauma experienced by many Somalis is likely to have a profound impact on mental health functioning. Available accounts of trauma reported by Somalis like myself, many suffered repeated trauma. These events occurred in the context of the significant social and family of the Civil War, because Civil War is long-standing in Somalia. nearly all Somalis have been in some way affected by trauma. And research does indicate that the impact of trauma on the individual varies according to many factors, which include, also the duration of the stressful event, whether the trauma was one single event or multiple events, the stability of the individual's family life prior to the stressful event, presence of effective coping skills, personal characteristics, and presence or lack of a support system. Now, I tell you these things that I've learned because these are things that I had to learn of, and they've helped me cope myself. So, studies also show that Somali adults and children alike witnessed the murder or torture of family members and friends during the war. Often, Somali women and men endured torture or rape, both of which were widely used as a means of terrorizing the population into submission. They have either experienced violence directly, witnessed it with their own eyes, or have close relatives or friends who have. Many Somalis suffer from traumatic memories, flashbacks, depression, and anxiety. All right, so to stop it there, guys, all this is mental health related. And I'm just going to have you just think about that for a second. Yeah, it's tough, right? So let's jump into social isolation. Many Somalis with mental illnesses are socially isolated. The pain of this isolation is felt intensely because Somali culture is traditionally communal and family-oriented. While a person with mental illness may be ostracized from the community, their fear of stigma may be even more powerful. Whether the ostracism is created by the community or self-imposed due to anticipated negative responses, the social isolation creates a profound worsening of the mental illness because they're scared. And firsthand, I know this too. I'm scared to talk about things because of what people are going to think. This social isolation can be very disorienting and can make the process of healing very difficult. In fact, even from our community alone can contribute to the development of depression. You get that? It's hard for us to talk about things because of the way people are going to think of us. It's hard for us to talk about things because we were told not to. It's hard to talk about things because you're told to be strong. Man, I drop one tear and it's like, shit, you're a pussy. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. It's crazy. So, let's go to change in social status. In a pattern repeated with with every group of new Americans, children learn English, right? And because of the culture clash more quickly than their parents, often immigrant and refugee parents are in the position of learning the language and culture from their children. My mom, we all learn together though, actually. Children become responsible for communicating with the outside world and are in charge of such things as reading the mail and paying bills. For any family, this role shift can cause a strain on parental authority. It is particularly difficult in cultures such as Somali, where adults are not accustomed to learning from children. When children have English language proficiency and parents don't, this creates an imbalance in power in the family, which makes parenting very stressful and confusing. Other dynamic in the families occur when a parent, usually the father, has lost his stable role as a primary breadwinner. When resettling in a different culture, previous work skills are often not easily transferable. As a result, it is often very difficult as a parent with little or no English language ability to secure a job. When parents require financial assistance from the government, they usually feel stressed and they are not providing for their family. This can lead to feelings of guilt and worthlessness. Let that sink in, guys. And I'm gonna let you guys go with that. And thanks for tuning in. You are appreciated, and I hope you have a wonderful night.